I'm Hani Al-Qadi, your host for Education Exchange on its 22nd year. It's a beautiful spring night in Iowa City. First evening and of the first day of the spring. And we are delighted to have with us two very distinguished guests. Alison DeMori, you have been a friend of this show for many years now. Alison is the Director of Nutrition Service in Iowa City School District. And we were honored to have a guest today that you brought, Michelle Kenyon.
Yes, Michelle Kenyon is the program coordinator for Field to Family, and we work together to source local produce that we incorporate in school meals, which we call Farm to School. So we thought it would be a great opportunity to highlight some of that great work that we're doing.
So we'll start the first segment of our program with Michelle telling us exactly the kind of collaboration between her organization and the school district.
Great.
Well, thank you for this opportunity to talk about Farm to School. I've worked with Alison since she started, and I was there at the beginning when the Farm to School chapter was started at the Iowa City Community School District. I'll go ahead and get started on the presentation. Farm to School is a state program led by the Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship, IDALS, through the USDA. There are currently 27 chapters in the state, and each chapter is affiliated with a school district. So there are 27 school districts in the state of Iowa that have a Farm to School chapter. We focus on school garden education, our new education programs within the schools called farmer fairs, and of course local food procurement with the school into school lunch menus. The goals of Farm to School are to support school gardens in Johnson County, to teach kids where their food comes from, encourage kids to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, and to provide a gardening experience. We work with the food service, I should say the Nutrition Services Director, to increase the amount of fresh local food that students eat. And we have a goal of increasing local food in lunch menus by 5% each year. We also work to increase the number of students in Johnson County who receive lessons and hands-on activities about what makes up a healthy and sustainable community food system. Annually, we host a school garden workshop. We have one coming up on April 2nd. It's at 1 p.m. at the Kirkwood Community College. We've had several other workshops, and we bring together school gardeners, teachers, parents, and principals to talk about the work that they're doing in the schools, in their outdoor classrooms. All our past workshops are on our website and have been archived at fieldtofamily.org. Currently, with 27 school buildings in the Iowa City Community School District, there are 17 schools with gardens. There are 6 schools planning to put in a garden this spring, many as we speak. That's Twain Alexander Elementary, which is a new elementary school, Borlaug Southeast Junior High, Van Allen, and North Central Junior High. If all 6 of those schools do start gardens this year, that will leave 4 school buildings without school gardens, which is pretty incredible. Of course, gardens come in all different forms. They're led all differently. Some are parent-led, teacher-led, community-led, garden clubs, before and after school programs, and perhaps something we don't have on the list. 15 of the schools have vegetable gardens, 4 have prairies, 5 have butterfly gardens, and 6 have on-site composting. We definitely rely on financial support from the community. Each school does it differently to fund their school garden, but Soil Mates, New Pioneer Soil Mates has been donating $500 a year to each school for their garden. We also get support from Hy-Vee. Our farmer fairs are in-school, is an in-school field trip where we take the kids through various different stations. They get to meet farmers and eat freshly harvested and minimally processed foods. We have, in the spring, we plan to have 2 farmer fairs, May 13th and May 20th, one at Alexander and one at Twain. We'll hopefully have asparagus by then and fresh greens. We're really excited about spring starting. We'll also have something new this year, a wildfire specialist who will not start fires, but he will bring in his equipment to talk about how they do planned prairie burns and how they tackle forest fires. Of course, we're hoping to bring in the baby pigs this year. Farmer fairs, as I said, you know, there's food tastings, there's different activities, including hands-on activities in the gardens. We have the kids rate the food that they do try, and recipes are sent home with the students. So here we go. The kids had sweet potatoes, butternut squash, and carrots and turnips at one farmer fair, and they were able to take this home to show their parents what they liked and what they didn't like. Of course, our work getting local food sourced for school lunches started right when we could begin our chapter. We started in 2010 and 2011. We were able to source 1,392 pounds of food that was from local sources. We've come a long way. As you could see in 2012, we went a little, we dipped a little. 2013, wow, was a wonderful year. We used some sourcing in the summer that year. It was the first time. And then 2014, we had some other issues, so we went down again. But no one can say anything bad about our 2015 number of 12,613 pounds, by far the most we've ever had, and with a total of 30,000 pounds of local food sourced in the schools. And of course, we source from various different farmers, and primarily in August and September's lunch menu. And Allison leads the menu planning and works very closely with us, so I think she'll take over from here.
Yeah. So when you look at those totals of usage,
Thank you, Michelle.
I think if you've lived in Iowa any period of time, you know that we are subject to the weather and what that provides in terms
And we
of.
always say welcome to Iowa.
Yes. But in any given year, we don't really know what the yields are going to be. You know, some years we have had been able to use melon, like cantaloupe and watermelon, and then other years, if the growing season isn't good, either a late start or early frost and some of those kind of things, then our opportunities are more limited. And to begin with in Iowa, the reason that we have our primary usage in August and September is just because, you know, we have to get things growing in the spring and then harvested. And so August and September are our biggest months, and that just goes along with the growing season in Iowa. But we're able to capitalize on that and use as much as we can. We have been able to also use some local things like sweet potatoes in the winter, which have been very popular and delicious as well. So what we've come up with, I'll show you this poster over here, and we on our menus like to kind of emphasize what we're getting local. And so we've come up with this tractor icon. I don't know if you can see that. But we put that on the menu so that families can look at any given month and have a quick way to determine what is being sourced locally. So that's the tractor icon that you see here that we use for that.
So the last part was a slide. This one, does it show like a schedule, calendar, or what?
Yeah, we put out a monthly menu, and that's posted on the district website.
Right.
Yeah, and these are examples of this year, August and September, and what we menued. And again, that tractor icon is going to be a quick way for families to recognize what was sourced locally. So we started that as a way to, again, part of the reason to use Farm to School, in addition to the fact that it helps teach kids where their food comes from, it is just usually very superior in terms of quality and taste.
Yeah, it's not frozen for who knows
think of
what.
Right. One year when we got watermelon from Conesville, we had gotten some watermelon in from our regular distributor at the same time, plus the watermelon from Conesville. And we cut them side by side, and the Conesville watermelon was this beautiful red, juicy watermelon, and then the one that we had gotten from our distributor, and I'm not sure where that came from originally, was that white kind of stringy watermelon. And so hands down, the local watermelon just looked and tasted so much better. And our guidelines changed back in the 2012-13 school year. And with that change, it required us to, well, students had to take a fruit or vegetable to count as a full meal. And so from the beginning, we knew, my philosophy was, we need to put good fruits and vegetables out there that kids want to eat. I don't know if you remember, there was some negative press at that time about the fruits and veggies, and kids, that was not the thing to do. As a dietitian, I think it's a great thing to do, that we expose kids to fruits and vegetables, especially if they may not have an opportunity to have those at home. So when we can not only serve them fruits and veggies, but serve them great fruits and veggies, it's a win-win. It gives them an opportunity and exposure to things that they wouldn't have otherwise, and provides them with great quality nutrition. So we're excited about that. So in addition to that, in addition to the tractor icon, we also use these signs to help kind of show students where that food comes from. Like with Michelle had talked about the farmers fairs and getting to know the farmers. This is another opportunity for us to teach students who grew their cherry tomatoes, and where their apples are coming from. And again, it's part of that education process. So we put those on our salad bars on the day that we are serving that fresh and local produce, so that students hopefully will notice that as they come through.
Do you get more cooperation from certain farms than others, or from certain farmers?
Well, I think the farmers, Michelle is a huge help to us in that, and helping us source that local produce. I think some of the biggest hurdles, Michelle can speak to this better than I probably, but we're kind of daunting in terms of the quantity that we need. We serve about 9,000 meals a day, and so that's not necessarily easy to provide that kind of quantity that we need. So sometimes we have to source from several farmers, but Michelle can probably speak a little better on that issue. But it is a challenge to try to find sometimes, although it seems to be improving, I would say.
It has improved.
Yeah.
I think it's because the demand has grown, so the farmers are stepping up to the plate, pun intended, and they're working harder to make the larger larger orders. For instance, with the cherry tomatoes, the school district wants 350 pints delivered on a specific day, and finding the right farmers who can source that is a challenge. We really know there's only a few we can call on to see if they can make the order. However, we have grown every year, so we fully expect to have more farmers that we can call this year to see if they can help make the orders. We're hoping to have cherry tomatoes available at least once a week through, for the first 6 to 8 weeks. But we also have other challenges too. Like I said, the food needs to be delivered to the warehouse. Not all small farmers are able to deliver their food. They'll go to the farmer's market, they'll deliver to their restaurant, but not always can they deliver such a large amount of food when the school district needs the food.
Let us jump to another topic now, because last time you were here, Allison, we were talking about the importance of using food as not only knowledge and information and nutritional value, but to help people understand the needs of some segments of our society too. And we, you explained in few other shows before the issues of reduced lunch and free lunch and all that. And I don't want to go back to this because people can always get it from YouTube and see what we have discussed. But this year there were the news of having breakfast to everyone.
Yes.
Is that the first year?
So yes, this is the first year that we've been able to provide breakfast in every school. And I think school breakfast stereotypically, historically, has been just for free and reduced students, or that is kind of the stereotype that
Right.
goes along with that. Not true. I think a lot of working families, it's a great benefit to have that. I know for my own children, they're not necessarily hungry when they first get up, but by the time they get to school, they are. And so we know that even though the participation varies, that there's great value in having that available for students at every school. So we are now able to provide breakfast at every school, and we continue to encourage participation because we know that students learn better when they have food in their stomach. They're able to think.
Now, another topic that I
Yeah.
want to ask you about is when you plan your menu.
Yes,
Can you take us and take our
Absolutely.
viewers with you through the journey?
absolutely. It is a journey. That's a great word. So even though we have 20 elementary schools, none of those have kitchens. So the food for all the elementaries comes from one of our 3 major production kitchens. And that would be City High, West High, and Northwest Junior High. In the very near future here, fall of 17, we will have Liberty High School, which will also be a production kitchen. And those facilities then produce and distribute food to those elementaries in their areas. And so the great thing about that is that, you know, when we have Liberty open up, that will allow us to better serve those North Liberty schools, because currently the food for those North Liberty schools is coming from our Northwest Junior High. And so it's a bit of a travel from Coralville out to those North Liberty schools. So it'll be great to have Liberty open and to be able to get the food there. So when it comes to menu planning, there are lots of different things that we consider, and we have a whole a group of us that work together to accomplish this task. First and foremost, we have to look at our guidelines that we've been given. So again, back in the 2012-13 school year was the beginning of the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act that had the new guidelines and the new regulations that we had to follow. So we have to make sure that we're meeting all those guidelines in terms of how much, you know, offering the fruits and vegetables and the required amounts of food. In addition to that, then we have to look at that transportation piece and production piece. So when in each of the production kitchens, we can't have a day where everything's made in the steamer or everything's made in the oven. So we have to kind of look at that production piece, and then we have to look at just the transportation and what will fit in our trucks. For example, on days where we have soup, that requires an additional transportation carrier for the soup, and some of our trucks are getting so full that it's hard to make just that one additional menu item fit in. So again, that will be a benefit to having Liberty open, was that we'll be able to kind of separate the Northwest kitchen from Liberty in terms of producing for some of those elementary schools on the north end of the corridor, which will help tremendously. And in addition to then the production transportation piece, you know, I think we have to look at what kids like. So, and possibly that's the most important piece. So I always say that what students like and what their parents like aren't necessarily the same thing, but we aim to be both kid-pleasing and parent-pleasing, because kids may like corn dogs, but that doesn't mean mom and dad particularly like them to have corn dogs. So again, I think the thing that is important to remember the very first thing that we look at is the guidelines that we talk about on menu. And our items have to be whole grain rich, and they have to meet a certain fat percentage and no trans fats. And all the products that we have on the menu, even the corn dogs, are going to meet all those requirements. So I always use pizza as an example. At our high schools, we serve Pizza Hut pizza, but it's a different Pizza Hut pizza than you buy if you would go into the restaurant. This Pizza Hut pizza has a whole grain crust, and it's got, it's a little lower in sodium with the tomato sauce, and it's got more, the cheese and the protein are gonna meet our requirements. And so it is a very healthy choice. And I think sometimes we fight those stereotypes of school lunch being not healthy and that it's overly processed. We do make many, many things from scratch, and even the things that we buy that are processed, whether it's a chicken patty or the corn dogs or some of those kind of things are formulated to meet our guidelines. So it's not the same corn dog that we had 5 years ago even. You know, it meets all of those guidelines in terms of whole grain rich, lower in fat and sodium, and meets those requirements. So that is kind of the final piece that we look at with menus is we check participation, we know what kids like, and what, you know, we get feedback from parents, and so then we try to make sure then again that we're offering foods that kids want to eat, because nobody wins when we throw it away. So we want to make sure that we're putting out food that meets all our requirements, that's healthy, and that gets eaten.
Sure. Now, recently, I have read some articles about invasion of food stuff in certain states, certain restaurants with listeria, and in addition, of course, Pseudomonas before that, and Salmonella, and all that. I know that your job is pretty critical when it comes to
Absolutely.
supervision. What are the precautions that we can tell parents that you are taking to make sure that their kids are not exposed to any kind of
Sure. Well,
infection?
food safety and sanitation is an important piece of what we do, absolutely. And I think the starting point for that is to make sure that we are procuring items that are from reputable distributors. So our guidelines require us to put our purchases out for bid, and so then we have to find a vendor that meets those requirements, and that's typically not a problem.
Are eggs safe now?
So the eggs that we use are a pasteurized liquid product. It's a real egg product, but it's been pasteurized because if you were to crack an egg,
Right.
maybe you had 20 eggs in your recipe. If one egg was bad, then you've contaminated the whole bunch, right? So we use the liquid pasteurized egg so that we don't have that concern.
Right.
But one of the things that I happened to think about when you mentioned that was the farm to school, the produce. So the question has come up, how do we monitor that for
Right.
safety? And when we talked about the quantity and the fact that sometimes one farmer can't supply all of our needs, if we need to use 2 or 3 farmers, then we have one farmer maybe provide all the food for West High and the schools that West High serves, and one farmer provide for city and those schools, and so forth. So if there was a problem, then we could track back to the source. But we do have guidelines that we work with our farmers to make sure that they are, you know, that the process is being followed in terms of fertilization and the water sources and all those kind of things, to make sure that's a requirement that we have with the farmers, to make sure that they meet those requirements before we source those foods. So
What's really great that I have seen in the service in your area, schools, that people who serve the meals are wearing gloves.
yes,
I mean, if I go downtown to a very rich upper scale restaurant, I can see that not even the cook wearing gloves. So I mean, you're very.
So our staff have to wear hairnets.
Yeah, and the hairnets.
We talk a lot about, and we focus a lot on hand washing and
And the guy like me
proper.
should shave this.
You'd have to wear a beard net.
Or like, yeah.
yes, you would. You'd
That's
have to wear a
very
beard net and
important.
a hairnet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's very good.
So we have, you know, we have county sanitation guidelines that we have to follow, and we have state and federal guidelines that we have to follow to make sure that the food that we serve is safe. You know, after we source sound product, we have to make sure that we're storing it properly. And, you know, cold foods stay cold, hot foods stay hot. And that's important when you talk about transporting food like we do. So we have to purchase equipment that keeps the cold food cold and keeps the hot food hot. So when it leaves the kitchen at the right temperature, it arrives at its destination at the right temperature as well. And so it does. And we ensure that through the equipment that we have to purchase for transport. And then just the whole service piece to make sure that staff are washing their hands and following those good sanitation guidelines for service.
And your staff, you should be very proud of them, because I have noticed what happened at West High when there were like a threat.
Yes, they did an amazing job.
And they had to move the food service, and they jump into the buses to another school. And,
That's right. That was kind of a crazy day.
That was.
So the West High students went home that day, as you know,
Right.
but we still had the schools the elementary schools that are served out of West High.
Right.
And so it really, everybody worked together. The West High staff kind of ended up going to some of the other production kitchens, and so it was just a great team effort with nutrition services, and we had help from the physical plant, and we had help at the schools, and we had to change the menu a little bit because there was a period of time where we couldn't get into our kitchen, and so we were in full production mode when they said,
I
"Got
just
to get out."
when one sees this opportunity that we are on the air,
Oh,
to
absolutely.
congratulate you for
Absolutely. I
a
was
great
very proud of
performance,
our staff. Yes, they
because
did a
that,
great job.
You know, that's where really the real test
Absolutely.
is, when emergency
Absolutely.
happens, and how ready are you to confront that and
You
beat
bet.
the odds. Yeah.
Yeah. You never want that to happen, but I think the staff did a great job of working together and making it work, and at the end, all kids got fed, and I don't think most of those students at the elementary schools even noticed a difference. So
I know that
that's tremendous.
we have few seconds to thank
Yes.
you, but Michael, can we go half an hour more? I mean, this is very interesting, and I'm sure if parents have questions, they
Absolutely.
can contact you.
They can always call
How-
my office, and
Yeah.
if they have a question for Michelle, I can get them in touch with
And what's
Michelle.
the easiest way for parents to contact you?
Well, my email is demery.allison@iowacityschools.org, or our office phone number is 688-1021.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, this show is going to be on channel 18
Okay.
and 21 cable. If you don't have cable and you have satellite or something like that, you can still see this show on YouTube.
Okay.
As well as, of course, if you go to Public Access TV on your computer, they always publish the shows there. So Public Access TV website, Public Access TV station, 21, as well as YouTube. Thank you, Allison, very much for
Yes.
a delightful evening. And thank you, Michelle, for being our guest tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And we would like you to come back again.
Well, I would love to.
Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I say have a very good night, and I would like to thank John Karhoff, Michael Peterson, and Mason Ripley, who's our camera and floor director here. And good night, and enjoy your spring in Iowa City, Iowa.